the show, Joe, and everyone else. Welcome. Tonight we have Joe Soukup, New York Herkimer Diamond miner, and we had the pleasure of mining with him today. It was a great experience, and we are going to dive into that. But first, please welcome Joe. Welcome, Joe. Oh,
How
wait a
we
minute.
doing?
I'm sitting here,
banned.
right?
Yeah,
I didn't even. I am your host, Amber Nicole.
yeah, it's your show,
This
not
is your
mine.
co-host.
Hey everyone, it's Ben Corn.
It's like we're off today, you know.
It was a hot day.
It was a
very
hot
hot
day.
day.
We started at we left the house at like 6 a.m. and we got home at like 6:20. So we've been running all day mining in the heat, and we're together for the show, so it's just a little different.
Yeah, right.
Joe, tell us a little bit about your story and how you got started.
How I got started. Well, I had friends that came up here for many years, even before I even knew anything about them. Friends from Connecticut, and then I ended up moving up here, right in the neighborhood of Middleville. And my friends called me and they say, "Hey, we're heading to New York. We hear you live up there now." And then I started mining with these guys, mostly just hanging out. And then one day on my property, right in my own yard, there they were. So, yeah, it just kind of fell in my lap.
You've been hooked since, right?
Oh, I was kind of hooked a little bit before. I was more interested in the whole idea where they are and how to mine it more than just the Herkimers. Because, they're there. They're there without a doubt. You just got to get in there. If you can't get in there, they're hard to get.
And we've seen firsthand. Joe, boy, he really knows what he's doing. And I can chisel. Even Ben would chisel things, and then Joe comes right in, and he's just like, doop, doop.
Yeah. Well, that's 50 years of breaking rock. I don't have a whole lot of experience just in this kind of ledge itself, but I'm basically more of a rock breaker than a rock hound,
So before we get started in the, techniques and different things like that, first tell me, and I got a little bit of that from you today, when you go into one of the mines here in New York, in the Herkimer kind of district, when you're at this mine and you were assessing the area to decide where we would start digging, what are some indicators that you would like to share with other people so they know a good spot to start?
Well, the basic first thing is, are you capable of the wall or are you taking a rock? So you have to make that decision first. But either way, you're still kind of looking for the same thing. So you want to see who else has a pocket that's, they cleaned out. So they kind of give you an elevation shot of what's going on and where it's happening. So you might look at 12 feet of ledge and just see two little pockets. Well, that's going to tell you got a lot of work ahead of you, Okay. Even though they might be right there. There could be 6 of them right between it. You don't know. But the ledge lays out. If you spend enough time in a certain area, you're going to know what's next. It just, and different levels have different diamonds.
And so you keep saying ledge, so I assume that's kind of where people want to start.
No.
No.
You started in the ledge today. What did you think of that?
It was hard.
Yeah. It's like no other ledge you ever touched before. It's no picnic.
Yeah.
So, and you got to have the right kind of tools too.
So
we make most of the tools that we use in this area. We more or less make them or buy them from somebody. Yeah, that's the Herkimer Mining District.
Yeah, so we'll back up and we'll talk about that a bit.
Yeah, what's that showing you is basically where they're accessible. Now, outside the map, they're still there. But you may have a lot of overburden. They might be 50 feet down. You're not going 50 feet down. But there's, from my knowledge, there's hundreds of private Herkimer diamond mines in that area. But that doesn't mean everything in that area has it, because sometimes it's just not accessible. You're just not going to get there. And realistically, it goes a lot farther north than that. But we know you're never going to get down in that, because it might be 1,000 feet down.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so you were talking then also about the tools. So we've got this photo too. So can you talk about like some of the different tools and I guess what their purpose is?
All right. Now take the hammers for instance. Those are mini sledges. That's a 2 and a 4. That's all I use. I mean, if you want to throw the big, the bigger ones, or it's more work and more energy. You got to be there all day. And today was a perfect example of what's it going to take to get through today. Just sitting there alone would wear somebody out. So the smaller hammer, and you learn how to use them without wearing yourself out.
Yeah, I was definitely wearing myself out.
yeah. You can't get too aggressive because you got a long day ahead of you.
Yeah.
And you want to buy a sledge and not like a lump hammer. It just feels better in your hand. It's more controllable. Just a couple of screwdrivers in there. You get little dental picks. That's great for cleaning out the holes. They will not scratch a Herkimer. They most likely will never break one. Even if you pry on it, usually bends the pick. So you're pretty safe with them when you're gouging in a hole there and trying to figure out if it's full of clay or something. Root pruners. Though those are actually tree pruners, but you prune a lot of roots, even though most of the time you're in rock, but a lot of places have dirt. You're in the dirt. If you don't have roots, somebody else put that dirt there, most likely. And the tree saw for bigger roots. And then the longer screwdrivers we turn into chisels, so you don't have to be way down in the hole when you're doing it. And then we have the long pry bar, and then we have the steel. The steel, that's all. Those are basically leaf springs off of cars that are cut and tapered and rounded and different lengths for different purposes.
Different widths and curves, and
we
learned all that today. Just to know which one to start with and which
right.
one's
You got to have a starter. You can't just take any spring and shove it in there. I mean, if you got big cracks and all that, and you could slide something in there, that's one thing. But if you want to try and get 2 there in a tight crack, you better have 2 good starters because they won't go in. You saw it.
Yeah. It was. When I first saw, before we did the show, your tools, I was like, these are tools I've not seen before. Or, some of them, and I'm like, I had no clue what they were, how to use it, and just another example of how important it is, especially someone like you to have around to help those people who come out here and don't know what they're doing, because they're going to leave.
God, it's so frustrating to see somebody who's just trying. I mean, they really want to do it. And and it's just even a simple lesson with a hammer. You can't imagine how much more they can just do just learning how to use the hammer properly.
And I'll tell you, I knew that the Herkimer Diamond mining was hard. I didn't know it was this hard.
No joke.
It was hard.
And you don't hard. Walking out with buckets, it happens sometimes, but
you don't really need them because
you get buckets of druising and things like that, and you get big diamonds, little diamonds, but to work, it's you have to have a goal. I'm going from here to there. That's your goal for the day. Eventually you're going to hit something, but if you're going to give up in an hour, stay away from the ledge.
Right. So you talked too about some of the layers. I know when we were at your place, you had a layer that you said there's nothing above it. So can you kind of talk too about like the rock that they're found in and the different layers and how thick it is?
So basically your Herkimers are found in the dolomite. Dolostone, right? And then inside your typical pocket will be Herkimer, druzy, calcite, and dolomite, and atraxolite. So different layers, you'll have more atraxolite. That's going to give you more gemmy, maybe, but nothing really big. But sometimes it happens, If it's really big, it'll be a skeletal. This is a chunker and it doesn't look all that great, but this is probably 80% of it is faceted. That's how crazy that is.
Was that the one from today?
No.
Okay.
No, this is from right next to the bear claw from a few years back. No, the one from today is sitting sitting in a bucket.
You mentioned bear claw. So for those who don't know, this is the bear claw, which is the one that that was one of the first ones you found, right?
That's one of the first ones I found on my property, and that more or less just said, contracting isn't worth the time when I could just sit here and have a good time. It's hard work, but you saw what it's like out there. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah. And then
nature.
You mentioned the skeletal, and so if anyone is wondering what those are,
well, that bear claw is a skeletal.
Yeah.
Oh, this is today's dig.
Yeah, so this is the pocket that we started at today. So you can see in the upper right, that was what the pocket looked like as we were starting to take out the crystals.
Right. And that was packed with a lot of anthraxolite mixed clay. It was packed really tight.
And we've got video of that.
Right.
And could you quickly explain what the anthraxolite is?
Bacteria poop.
Okay, and that was the black color.
It's a bacteria that more or less was eating off of the stromalite, which is like I call it a giant cabbage head, whatever. It was a kind of some vegetable or whatever that grew in the ocean or whatever. At that point, I'm not really exactly sure what the whole definition of that is, but so the anthraxolite is like it's just a waste that turns to like coal, but it's never made it to that point.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So let's take a look at the video.
Yep.
So basically what we're going to do is we're going to cut a groove into the side of the ledge. Like that.
All right. Yeah, that's caping.
Because we can't find a crack. Or we take a crack itself and just cut it open a little.
So this explains some of the tools that we were just talking about.
Allows us
to
put a couple of our starter
the ones that you make from the car parts.
So we can start our third piece of steel.
And are these the ones you made?
So
I did not make that particular piece.
You did.
These I made. These are from a leaf spring on a car.
Okay.
That we cut off.
Yeah, what you have in your hand is a caper. I don't make capers. But it's basically just a piece of steel that you would cut a groove into the ledge so you can start your stack because you don't have a crack. No crack to get into, so now you've got to get at least 3 pieces in there before it starts really working the rock. Then you can put your 4th one in and get a lift. And you probably have to cape quite a few holes to break up something any big.
Okay, you can hear it doesn't want to go in.
Yeah, I can hear that hollow sound.
And when you're hitting steel like that, you got to hit it 30, 40 times. You don't hit it 3 or 4 times and think you're in there.
Yeah,
you have to get that piece set.
Hard rock.
You can't just give up on it. Yeah, there's no soft dolostone.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. I'm sure my arms are gonna be sore tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, you picked up the big hammer today. I didn't.
I wanted to do that, but I was like,
I know. Everybody wants to swing the big hammer at least once.
So here we're just.
Are we going to show this pocket coming apart?
Yes, it should be after this.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't have as much time to do some editing, so we're kind of working on the fly here, trying to see if we can find this.
Yeah, I'm hip to it.
Hey.
How we doing?
Yeah,
they're all piled. Wow.
Oh, yeah. So when we first opened the pocket, we're looking at it. We know it's a skeletal. We know it's full of mud and clay. So our first assumption is that most of it's probably pretty tore up and broken because skeletal does not take the weather very well. So something that's that buried in that much mud and crap it's near impossible that it come out as beautiful as it did. That wasn't from that pocket.
Right.
That was something
so
else.
There's some pictures here.
Oh, yeah. Now these aren't fully clean, but there was some beautiful stuff. These are like 90% untouched.
Yeah,
maybe even better.
We literally watched you unearth this. It's crazy.
Yeah, and so Janine, just to answer your question, yes, this was at Joe's mine.
Yes, this is at the Elusive Herkimer Diamond mine. Hard rock. Well, they're all hard rock.
Right.
Some of the places have a little bit of dirt digging you could work on. And it's the same thing. If you don't know what you're digging in, you could be 3 feet too high and not even never know what's happening. You're just in the wrong spot. That was that's a half a pair of earrings you found in the afternoon.
Yeah, that was the one I found today. It's tiny, but it's mighty. It's so clear. It's like
that's
water
a beautiful
clear.
piece.
Yeah. That was the one I found. So moving on here, we've got a picture of the crew we were with today.
Oh, yeah, today's crew.
Yeah.
We got Tim Ozzie all the way in the back there.
Yeah.
We got Andrew Rockhound is in the picture there.
Andrew
And
Rockhound.
we got Ben and Amber.
Mary Lee.
Oh, Mary Lee's in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I can't see well.
Oh, and Andrew's dog.
I don't know his name or her name. It's a girl, I think.
Andrew, if you're watching, you'll have to let us know. And so I also will say, so Ben was working so hard today to find these Herkimer.
I know. He was getting slammed by some hard lads.
I think he was so defeated. And then so it's like 450.
Yeah.
And we're wrapping up, and he found like a really nice pocket of
there was some Druzy cluster Herkimer stuff going on. There was some nice stuff there at the end, and that'll clean up beautifully.
Yeah. So that one on the right there, that one's got, I think I counted like 5 crystals in it. It's just amazing. I still got to clean it off, obviously, but
yeah,
it's a really great way to end the day after not having much luck after pounding on some hammers for
but see, if you found that first, and then didn't find anything for the rest of the day, you'd be disappointed right now.
Yeah, that's true.
Now you're happy.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the gang again.
Yeah, that was a great picture.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great day of learning. Sometimes even if you don't even get a chance to collect a lot or anything, just the pieces of information that you can take for the next time.
Right.
If I would have never did this with you, Joe, I would have had no clue what I was doing. Like literally.
You'd be banging your head on the telling everybody all those videos are fake. They can't do it.
It's so different than even just in Arkansas with the sandstone and the quartz diamonds that are in there. It's so much different. I mean, this rock is just like not moving.
Yep. And even the weathered rock, I mean, it moves only because it's unfastened from the piece next to it, and that's the only reason most of it's even semi-movable, but it still doesn't break apart very well, and a boulder is just a smaller piece of the ledge, and then a rock you think you can handle. Well, that's no different than a boulder or the piece of the ledge. If, the ledge is a little tougher because you can't just break it apart.
Right.
But for the people out there who are afraid of the ledge, go after a boulder. You're going to look for little black vugs with anthraxolite in them on the outside. You're going to look for a broken crystal on the outside. Something to tell you there was one next to it.
Druzy?
Druzy? Well, it depends on what mine you're at, because each mine has its own gig going on.
Okay.
So, because everything is in a layer. So certain mines can only go so many layers or so many feet. And you got to kind of just see what's going on there. But first thing to look for is somebody else's pocket that they took apart, or a vug, and a vug is just a little pocket, I guess. You're just looking for some sign that there was one in that rock or one in that wall there. Then you kind of assess it in both directions and see what's going on, and then you got to take it apart.
Right. And you gave some really good advice too, that just look for what's easy, and if you've got some blocks that are already loose, work on those and get those out. Right.
Start with the easy stuff, because you'd be amazed how much of it will fall apart with just a little bit of tapping on it or pushing on it, but it all comes down to having the right tools too, because you could see the difference just in my chisel compared to your chisel. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just the way you prepare the tool, because most people buy a chisel and they use it for a wedge. Well, that's why it's broken. But if you buy a chisel and make it a wedge, it'll never break. You understand?
Yeah. So we had a question here from Sean. He was asking about anhydro in quartz. So he was wondering if you know how the water gets trapped inside of the quartz.
That I cannot answer.
Okay.
I'm not that guy because I'm not really a geologist or anything. But I'm going to show you something. You won't be able to see the anhydro. But I just pulled this bag out of a bucket of stuff I had laying around. This is an anhydro cluster.
Well, it's gorgeous.
There's about, I can count 5 or 6 Herkimers sitting on that. And that was not put back together. That was not put back together. That's how it came out of the ground.
Wow.
So it's probably too bright on.
It's pretty though.
Herkimers don't take a good picture. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But that's an anhydro. I'm under the assumption that the water's got to be in there when it's being formed because they're usually in a teardrop on the inside. So how does it condensate in there? I don't know. How much water does it take to make sure there's water in it? I mean, it happened 400 million years ago, so really anybody talking about it is just taking a guess anyhow.
Yeah, so I guess kind of on the same realm of that too, I know we saw a couple of them, but what are some of the other things that you can find inside of the Herkimer Diamonds?
Well, inside it naturally is going to be basically anthraxolite or water. They say there's petroleum, but realistically, I've never really see it. Because the anthraxolite would be the petroleum, so it's either black or clear. A Herkimer will have clear petroleum, which is, you know what I mean? It's more see-through.
You said a Herkimer?
Now, yeah, Herkimer. It's a double terminated quartz crystal that kind of looks like a Herkimer.
Okay.
Yes, from Pakistan.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So what else can you find in it? Sometimes we find a little dolomite in there or something, or hematite. And I actually have a couple Herkimers with glauconite in it, but I don't think I have it in front of me. And the glauconite would actually be bright green turquoise color.
Wow.
Very rare to find one. I have maybe 3. I've never seen anybody else who had one. Blood red, which is probably hematite washed inside, recrystallized. And we know that it's in there permanently because we put it through an acid wash. It won't come out. So it's actually recrystallized and just stuck in there permanently in a sealed compartment at that point.
So you just mentioned using acid. What are sort of some of the things that you do to clean the crystals?
If you think you have iron on it, you use iron out. But if you don't have iron, there's really no sense to it because it's really just a stain remover for the most part. It will melt certain things, but it takes a little longer. I just use vinegar, 6% vinegar. Now, you can go to muriatic acid. I don't recommend that unless you really know what you got in front of you because it should be diluted drastically. So before anybody touches muriatic acid, make sure you know what you're doing with it. It's very volatile. It only takes one breath and you're gone. Yeah. So
right.
I recommend stay away from that. Vinegar, 90% of what I have is clean with vinegar. You know, and if you put it in there and you see it boiling, that's mean it's burning the calcite off or the dolomite. So if you wanted to save that, don't put the calcite or dolomite in the vinegar unless you want to get rid of that.
Right.
So today, what's a bit, I could say one piece of advice that I learned from you today, is, and just even seeing with Ben is like, don't give up because I mean, he went all day and then
all day
he found stuff, you know, so it takes a lot of time. And I know like, I see a lot of Herkimer miners that, you know, always show these really great, beautiful specimens. And for them to have acquired those specimens, they put a lot of hours in. So it's not easy at all to mine these.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get a good picture of that. I'm going to take a flash. This is just one of the cases.
Yeah, that case is stunning.
Yeah, and it's just one of a few, and it's, you know, but that's a lot of hard work and it's a lot of time and dedication. You know, I have You know, and when I go to the mines, I go there from the time they let me in till the time they tell me to go. And
so I guess that kind of goes with Vanessa was just asking. She's actually doing a trip to New York soon and was looking for any tips. Is that one of the tips you recommend then? Like going early in the morning, or I guess what else do you have?
Well, most of the mines don't open till 9, so you want to be there as early as possible because you could see the heat that we had to deal with. In the 2 places we were in are 2 of the cooler mines that they don't have the stress of the heat, and we were still dying. You know what I mean? It's no picnic out there in the ledge at some of these places because you are in a rock pit. You have a wall around you that's 20, 30, 50 feet high. You know, stay hydrated, drink lots of water. Yeah. As far as where to go, every mine is different. Depends on what you're capable of. You know, watch the videos. That's all I can say. Watch the videos.
Which videos?
Anybody's video in the Herkimer world. Watch my page, the Elusive Herkimer Diamond. That's my Facebook group.
Facebook group. Yes, very informative group. Lots of good information.
And if you have a question, you're asking the group 99% of the time. So it's not like it's my opinion or my word or whatever. It's a group thing, you know, and that's what makes the group special because, you know, we all contribute as much as possible, you know. And they're all watching tonight. Hey, people.
Does anyone have any? Oh, you know what I thought was really interesting? Did you want to talk a little bit about like the geology of the area, like with formations? And you were talking a bit earlier about the sea that was here and all that.
The seed?
Sea. You were talking about ocean.
Oh, the ocean. Well, yeah, basically the dolostone is just the bottom of the ocean being stacked up over millions and millions of years. You got to fathom that it's one of the hardest rocks in North America. So it took a lot of compression to get it there. And, you know, we're still mining 150 feet of depth. So that had to have been thousands and thousands of feet to compress just to even get that to happen, you know. And it was all created on a microscopic level for the most part. You know, most of it you couldn't see with your eyes. And then they created the dolostone and, strictly for under pressure. That's why the area is where you find your Herkimers is almost identical elevation in the Herkimer world. It doesn't vary by much. It might slope a little or whatever, but basically it's so flat because it was at the bottom of the ocean. No volcanic activity happening, nothing in the water swimming by. So you very rarely see waves in the lines. They're almost dead level. Some of them are within a half a mile. I've been in places a half a mile and be within a couple inches of the height, elevation. So it's that flat.
And so how do the voids, the vugs, the pockets, how do those form in the rocks?
Basically it's certain layers will be the old stromalite from way back when that got compressed, and then I mean how the other ones are, they could just be a release of a bubble from the compression and let it, all of a sudden there was a lot of pressure because you'll see lines where they're almost flat bubbles, like they got there and then they got compressed back down. But I'm not a geologist. I'm a rock breaker.
No, I know. I just enjoy listening to.
You're the geologist, man, right?
You're the guest, and we're in your territory.
you were explaining some of that today with the like stromatolites.
Yeah.
And it kind of leans in. John was just asking, do you find fossils in the dolostone?
Realistically, no. Stromatolite or whatever the fossil that's called is all I've ever seen. There really wasn't anything alive at that time on this part of the planet or whatever. I mean, this could have been a sea lake for all I know, which they think that the Great Lakes were part of it, was a sea lake. So it could have been only pushed that far as the ledge, but I mean, it's 400 million years old when it started, give or take. And then when we come up to a certain line there that I showed you at the Elusive Herkimer Diamond mine, where it changes, That's like 280 million years at that point. So there was a long time in there.
Yeah.
So, and then above that, you start finding fossils.
Yeah, I was gonna say on the top side of that, right?
Yeah, if you go above me, you start finding what was it? They were finding a pink calcite, and then you get a little higher, you'll start finding some fossil. But it's still a really hard rock. It's still like a dolostone, you know.
Mhm.
It's just a little early, maybe, or whatever. That was the end of it, and then the glacier moved it. So, in like the Adirondack mountains or whatever, the forest up there, that was pushed on top of this ledge.
Yes, that makes sense.
Right. So this ledge goes almost dead level right out into the forest. So you could actually go in there and go down 2,000 feet, and boom, there they are.
Yeah, and just kind of go back to this map. So this is the whole extent that you were talking about earlier. It covers a really wide range that you can find.
Right. Basically, that's your accessible area. It's not definite. You can't find them outside that line. Now, if you look over to the right where Lake George is, well, they're in the bottom of that lake.
Got it.
But you're not getting there anytime soon.
Yeah, so I guess kind of going with that too. We talked about this when we were at your mine. You had some heavy equipment there. You had jackhammers. You had an excavator. You weren't using any of them. So I guess can you kind of talk about why you don't use those? Like, are they just not effective?
Well, the jackhammer is, once you get in past the weathered stone, the jackhammer really doesn't do anything. You watching a guy out there cutting a sidewalk with a jackhammer, and he's struggling and struggling. Well, that's like 3,500 or 4,000 psi, which is the strength of the sidewalk. This stuff here we're playing with 30,000 to 40,000 plus psi. So it's 10 times harder than the sidewalk. And the guy out there doing the sidewalk is struggling. You're never, realistically, you're not going to cut it with a jackhammer. Now, you could put a jackhammer on the excavator and play around, but then you take the chance of breaking, And most of the guys, once the machine does whatever it's doing and something is exposed, or you're close to where it is because you know what layer you're on, then it all becomes handwork anyhow. Because that's the best way to get your diamond out of there most successfully without destroying it.
Yeah.
Especially if you have clusters on the matrix. If you got a jackhammer on the outside pounding on that rock, by the time you open that pocket, you got a bunch of crumbs. So it's realistically done by hand or with something softer, maybe a pins and feathers. But the public mines don't allow that. That's where you drill a hole and you stick some wedges in and you tap on them.
Yeah, I've seen videos of you doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that blows the ledge apart. But even we don't do it that much because it's either a lot of cordless battery or you got to listen to the generator and you got to listen to the hammer drill, And there's times where it makes sense, And part of the problem is if you move too fast, then you end up with too much debris. You saw, you got to keep moving it. You saw how buried we get.
So what do people do if they don't have like these car parts to make the stuff that you make?
Struggle.
So you're
some
saying,
people get
like,
it done. Well, there's different aspects of different places to go. So you just you go to where you can handle the stone or the rock. I played in the rock for 10 years and never had a wedge. I just had a hammer. I hardly ever used a chisel. Because I know how to break a rock, but you can't really just break a ledge with just a hammer. Right. You could chip a couple pieces off, but you're not going to take it apart.
So
the people that go after the ledge are, most of them got an idea what they're up against, and they find out real quick if they don't know.
Yeah. So we had a question here from Jennifer asking if you do private digs or lessons, since it's not a public mine.
Yes and no. I would have to talk to her personally on that. She could message me through Facebook.
Okay. And we mentioned it earlier.
And it's because
more questions, they can go
most
to
most of it's because I just don't want to let just a bunch of people show up who can't. You go out there, it's no picnic.
Yeah,
This is
and
not this is not for the
liability
week.
and all that. Yeah, and it's
You know, I mean, if you really want to go out there for the day, you see what it's up against. You know, so but if you're ready for the lesson, watch some of my videos and make sure that's what you want to do.
Yeah, and
you know.
What were you saying?
And well, I was just gonna say, and so that's at the best way to watch your videos. Then that's through the Elusive Herkimer Diamond.
Yeah, you just got to look around and find my videos. I mean, I've been posted on there since 2013, so there's a lot of video. Not a lot of it showing steel but you can see what we pulling out. The farther back you go, you're going to see more about ledge. Because the last few years there's been a lot of dirt digging, and I wasn't digging; I was just following other people.
And so I was just going to say, and you said dirt digging. I was going to say, so for some people who may not have the tools that you have or the experience that you have, there are some mines where you can find like loose Herkimers and dirt.
Yeah, most any mine, any public mine, there is dirt to play with somewhere. But then again, it's like I said, you could be 3 feet too high. If you're not sure where you are and they're not telling you, you could miss it. You know, most of them will help you for the most part, you know, but some of them just open the door and let you go.
Yeah.
I think it's fun. But I enjoy breaking rocks. Most of my friends that come here from Connecticut are masons, and they break rocks for a living, and they come up here to hang out and break more rocks.
I can say, while it is very strenuous, I mean, I do like breaking rock.
yeah, it's fun, you know. And then you get crystal fever when you pull that one out.
So I guess we didn't really talk about too much about like I guess what is your favorite crystal or like your biggest crystal that you found?
Favorite crystal? You mean in the Herkimer world?
Or anything else. I mean, if you've got something else to show, we're up for any kind of
I've never mined anything else except for Herkimers, and I was at the Travertine mine for about 10 minutes. I don't know. I mean, the bear claw, I you know, that's got to be number one. That's the one that changed my life. That changed my life. That was the day I considered, yep, this is it. I'm not going to contract anymore, you know. And I want to go in my yard and hang out with the birds in the water and break
like
rocks.
Nothing you would ever find. It's like a one of a kind.
And this came out with it. There was 42 pieces, and this isn't even the biggest one.
And this you found on your mine, correct?
Yep. This all came out from about 6 feet to the left of where we were today.
That's crazy.
About 1.5 feet higher.
It's so incredible, like how unpredictable.
Like, oh yeah. I mean, when you see something like that come out, you can't even imagine what happened.
In my mind wants to say that there has to be some kind of like way to figure out like where these spots are. It's like a needle in a haystack trying to find, you know, a pocket.
Right. So, well, different, you know, I've been on layers where there's a pocket every 10 to 12 inches apart, you know, but they're not even as big as a baseball, and they're only a couple inches high, if that. Where was that one? This realistically came out of one pocket on a lift at one of the mines when we were in the Gemmy layer. I can't see. There we are. There you go. So there's 18 crystals in there. This all came out of one pocket. This can go back together.
And how long did it take you to get to that pocket?
Realistically, less than 15 minutes.
Oh, well.
because it was a continuation. It's a continuation. When I get there in the morning, we spend 45 minutes cleaning or so, and then we start at the wall. So when I was working this area here in particular, within a half an hour, we're pulling out crystals. So it's about every 15 minutes to a half hour, you bust another layer. Boom. There might only be 2 little pockets there with 2 crystals, or there might be 6 pockets with 40 crystals. And sometimes you get 1 pocket with 150 in it. That doesn't happen too often. But it happens. It happens to Herkimer Harry 4 times. 4 times he did.
So Lori Madison here said, Joe, embarrassed to say I've been Herkimer mining for 15 years and I have never hit a pocket. I need to watch your videos.
Just give me a ring when you get to town. We'll see what we can do for you.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like the way he
Even just
explains
2
it
minutes
is-
on a lesson with a hammer.
Yeah, like lesson with the hammer, how to use those car parts you make, and it
Yeah.
works. And it's like, and you do it with such ease. It was just like,
Right. What was I doing half the time? I was sitting down or kneeling.
yeah, you were relaxed.
Yeah. Why stand up?
I know.
I
And
get
I'm
in
like, I'm
position.
over here like,
No, you were working it.
I was. So yeah, I definitely learned a lot today. That's for sure.
Yeah. So one of the questions I had, which I'm sure some people might be wondering, is there a way that you can tell there's going to be a pocket? Like I know I asked about, like, could you hit the rock with a hammer and it'll like tell you like
No, that's would be near impossible to hear a pocket. Because if you hit it hard enough to hear it, you're probably going to break right into it because the stone is that tight and that hard. Usually, if you hear something that's hollow, that means the piece that you're tapping on has already got a mud line around it, or it's already come loose. And even though it has a mud line, doesn't mean it just jumps out of there. You saw that today. You can see that thing. It looks like it should fall out, and you can't get it out with a pry bar. You know, there's a lot of mud lines in it. Even when you get really deep in there, every once in a while, you'll run into a mud line. Like even where the floor starts, it's not really a mud line. It's more like an atraxolite line.
Yeah, like John says, sometimes you hit a pocket and it's empty.
We had a lot of that today.
Realistically, if you start counting anything bigger than a nickel as far as the size of a pocket, probably better than half of them are totally empty. Probably closer to 70% of them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was.
There's a lot of empty pockets. Now, when you get to the big stuff, it's like 99% of them have something. But we're talking pockets bigger than bigger than a basketball. From that size up, very rare you find one empty. But I did watch a guy hit 2 empty pockets in a matter of a few hours. it was just something that happened. But very rarely, you big pockets always have something for the most part.
Right. So we had another question from Chris, who was asking, what is the most frequently asked question for Herkimer mining?
Well, they try to describe to me where they're standing in the mine, and they say, where should I go from here?
What, like today, Ben and I were both like, what should we do next? Where should we hit this?
Well, it's not even what you should do next. Where should I start?
Yeah, or like you're hitting it and you're like, it's not doing nothing. Like, is this a good spot? Like, I could definitely see how the more you're there, you get a.
Go back to that question. I mean, realistically, it comes down to what mine are you standing in and what are you looking at and what elevation are you at? There's a lot of variables that go to it, but the people at each mine know what's going on there. I've had experience in basically every public mine there is. So basically when I'm standing in the mine, I kind of know where it is and what it's going to be. And, there's different layers. There's 150 feet of elevation from top to bottom in Middleville, right? Most of your other mines, you can't see the top or the bottom because they don't have elevation. They 20 feet maybe, so they can only go down so far and they can't go up because most of them are in a field. And that doesn't make it any different. I mean, they're still there. There's Herkimers there. You can only go down. So you're stuck in that layer, whatever those particular layers are in that area. But when you get over into the Middleville area, when we were able to mine the whole area, now that some of it's been shut down recently, which is that's terrible. But you could see the top and you could see the bottom. So now you just take that map because there's layers that are only 4 inches apart, some of them, and it's a different crystal a little bit, And then you come to the pocket layer, and then above it goes back to jimmies and palmers, and then it goes to almost nothing, and then it goes to skeletal. So every layer is different.
So could you explain some of the terms, because those came up today, and I'm sure some people might be wondering. So you had skeletal, druzy, goonies, all these different.
We're like, I only know Goonies from like the 80s, the movie. Like, what's a Goonie?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we refer to a goonie as typically it used to be basically football size or up was
Okay.
considered a goonie, but it that size has come down a little bit. Only because in an area we were working, there was just one after the other, and it was just happening. Um, and so the goonie is just a giant Herkimer, and they are what they are. You'll never find a perfect one bigger than the biggest perfect one I saw was not even a golf ball size. It's very rare to find anything perfectly clear or with everything going on. They're bigger than that. It would be worth an extreme amount of money.
And so the skeletals, what are those exactly? Are they
Well,
like
a
not
skeletal,
terminated?
it's a regular Herkimer, but inside it, for some reason, it didn't grow as a solid. It grew in a layer and then a void and a layer and a void. So it's like stacked up inside there. They're great to look at, but you
they can
can't take
crumble. They probably crumble a lot, I imagine, right?
them. They don't like the weather at all. So typically, like what we found today, we were already for sure that thing was destroyed because there was so much mud in the pocket, and that thing came out. That was beautiful.
And it was crazy because it was just like it was on top. It wasn't like inside of it, like connected to anything. You know what I mean?
Right. Basically, that probably fell off the top of the pocket down into the mud.
Okay.
Because it was typically most of your Herkimer at that elevation are kind of stuck there mostly just by dolomite or anthraxolite. There's actually a little film of something in between them for some reason. Because a lot of what we pull out at that elevation are really no matrix. Everything had already fell off because it's not very well fastened. And the skeletal, very sharp. You should never just go pulling one out of a hole like that. Now, if you look at that crystal is like 90% there. There's minimum damage on that thing.
Yeah,
and the damage I think is just from the other crystal that was touching it, because it is a puzzle to go back together. So that could just be a broken facet off another crystal where they meet. But typically, when those start to break, there's like a bunch of razor blades. You do not put your hand on them things.
Are there other terms? Like I know we mentioned Druzy, skeletal, goonie.
Druzy, skeletal, goonie. Well, you got. Go ahead.
I was gonna say you said, but that was because you explained it was from Pakistan. You call them Herkimers.
Herkimers, right? They have Herkimers, and then they have Herkimers. I think Herkimers. Well, they have Herkimers from Arkansas. I think Herkimers are from Arizona.
Oh, okay.
And then there's a couple other ones out there, but they are double. There's a Pennsylvania one too, I think. I'm not 100%, but they're double terminated, and they look a lot like a Herkimer, but you won't see the clarity like you see in the Herkimer, because 90% of all those other quartz were used heat and friction and pressure, whereas the Herkimer basically is just pressure.
Pressure, yeah.
Just pressure, and that's what we're guessing gives the clarity to it, because the clarity is unbelievable.
Yeah. And going back to some of the collecting, Howard was asking, are there places that you can just find the crystals on the surface and you don't have to do any of the digging?
Not for the public.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's farmers' fields out there where you can walk around with as many buckets as you can carry and just fill them up, but he's not going to let you in there. And yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to get out of the public, and it's illegal. It's illegal to mine on state land unless it's a public mining area, which basically the Herkimers are not allowed to be mined publicly. It's illegal to stand in the ditch and mine Herkimers. It's illegal to cross the ditch, even if it doesn't have a no trespassing sign. The trespassing law in the state of New York is, if you knowingly enter the property without permission, you are trespassing. So keep that in mind.
Meaning, if someone didn't say you could come here,
right,
don't go there.
if you walk on that property knowing that nobody let you go there, you are trespassing. You walk off that property with anything over $100, you have created a felony.
As far as the surface collecting, back to his question, I don't know if it was specific to Herkimer Diamonds, but there's always the shoreline, on Lake Ontario that has, like I picked up some lake tumbled quartz yesterday when I was out there. So there are some minerals and rocks that you can do surface mining. Well, I wouldn't say surface mining, surface collecting, on the shoreline. And that's of course legal,
Right. There's a place in the Ilian Gorge, which is only 10 minutes from Herkimer.
Okay.
It's free. It's a public mine. It has travertine. There's not a whole lot of parking, so don't show up with a mining group.
Okay. But what can you find there?
Travertine.
Oh, you said that. Sorry. Okay.
Yep, travertine. And it's a good run of travertine. It's most people like to go in the spring when the frost pushes the edge off the hill. So basically, you're just scratching a little bit on the side of the hill through the runoff, and then you find a little vein of it. But that's totally legal, and it's a state road. It's an abandoned state road.
By the way,
Chris.
By the way, I just want to say thank you for these questions. I think this might be the most questions we've had, so far in our season, and I'm enjoying it because I'm learning as we're asking these questions. So, Chris says, "What causes the difference in clarity amongst the different mines? Is there anything that causes a difference in clarity and in different mines here?"
Well, it's not necessarily the mine itself. It's more about what layer you're in. So, and like I said, most of your mines are in a field, so they don't have much layer to play with, But in Middleville, you got 150 feet, so you can see the difference in the clarities and what you get on the different layers. And it varies. You could be 6 miles from somebody, but 40 feet lower, so you're going to have a different crystal or whatever else. But if you could both get to the same elevation, even though you're far apart, you're basically going to have almost the same stuff to a point. It does different as you get farther away, but overall, it's basically the same.
So that kind of ties in. So Carol was asking then, do you only find Herkimers at certain elevations?
Yes, most definitely, because it's that flat. So more or less, it starts... about the lowest I've ever seen it personally is around 550, maybe. That's pretty low, and maybe as high as 750. But that's kind of pushing it. That would be to the extreme.
Now, does everyone have that blue line like you do on your mine, like to distinguish, where to,
I have seen it. I have seen it.
Everything.
Well, see, the hard part is most of the mines are in a field. They don't have a top.
Oh,
the top is gone.
Gotcha.
So that's hard to decipher.
Like digging into because there's no.
They're digging it because they're there.
Gotcha.
I
gotcha.
I have seen the line in several mines, and the elevation of that line is over 40 miles away. It's within 10 feet. That's how close it is.
Wow.
Yeah. That's pretty good for a piece of ledge that got moved around.
So, for example, the location we were at today, I remember you saying, like, when we walked in, you were the second location. You were like, okay, where we were at initially, and then we moved. You were like, I would be down more in that hole than over here. How did you know? Like, is it just because you gotten used to eyeballing it like that?
I was just looking for something else. I was just looking for another pocket. People don't take both sides of the pocket. They only take the first side. You know what I mean? So there's always evidence of a pocket unless they kept mining.
Okay.
Right. So I spotted 2 or 3 pockets. Then I walked over a little more. I saw some more. And basically, I was following the line. Okay, this line is showing a pocket, here and there. We were a little pressed for time, and we were lacking a little bit of tool at the second place.
Yeah.
So, but I showed you how to get in it. I showed you a reverse effect. Typically everybody takes the top off and they blow it away. Well, we dug out through a water line.
Up. Yeah.
We dug through where the water was going through, took all the dirt out, and actually took the bottom of the ledge off and took it down to explore inside there. Like I said, you take the easy material. We saw that was easy. I could take the bottom of this rock off and nothing's going to fall. Now I can get in there farther and dig, because obviously people were digging in that water line, but they couldn't get in any farther with their hand. So what we did, we created a spot where we can get in even farther.
Yeah, I'm actually excited. Like tomorrow, I'm going to do some mining and using your technique and your assessment of things and see how it works for me.
So
so you'll be calling me about 9:30, right?
Yeah, right. I'll be like, okay, I don't know where to go. Where do I start?
So Tim actually had a question. He was wondering about the wedges that you make, and he's wondering how do you make those?
There's a lot of work to it. It's not something I could just explain in a couple of minutes.
But they work. They are the bomb.
They work.
Yep. They are the bomb.
Like I said, I have basically, if you look at that picture, there's over a dozen wedges there, right? There's 4 different styles there. Okay, there's actually 5. There's 5 different styles there. So you have to understand what each style is for, or what it's for, and how to use it. So you understand how to keep it sharp. And I mean, you saw me destroy steel today, right? How many pieces did I bend? Like 3 or 4?
Yeah. And it's like, and you have, so back to Tim's question, what's interesting with these wedges is like, not only are they a different length, they're a different width, they're a different bend, like
a different shape, they're cut, different thickness,
and like each one has its own role and the time frame or when you put it in and use it.
Exactly. And you saw when I'm moving, it's moving.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's a really interesting.
It's an art
technique. It's a technique.
It's an art.
It really is. Yeah, it's an art because
it's easy for me. I know it's not easy for all the other people or most of the other people. It's not that easy to do, but I've done it so much. I could do it with my eyes closed. It's but I've been doing it for a long time. I'm not afraid of the rock.
So going to that too, doing it with your eyes closed. We had a question here about listening to the sound that the steel makes.
Ray, how we doing, Ray?
Good question, because I learned that today too. So yeah,
because they're playing my song. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, it's a ding.
Yep. Long as the note keeps climbing, the steel's moving. When the note stops, the steel has stopped. Okay. So then you have to assess the situation at that point. What you're going to do next, whether add more steel or hit it harder.
Yeah, so just a reminder, let's listen to that video again.
Hitting it thing, yeah.
Cut off, regrind, change the look.
Let's jump ahead.
You can just hear it.
The curve, I'm going to put that curve facing down so it creates an opening.
I may have to get a couple pieces in it before it starts singing. You can see the dust vibrating off of that.
Yeah, rock. You can see it. Yeah.
Now I use a 2-pound and 4-pound hammer only because you got to do it all day. And if if all you have is a 5-pound lump hammer, you won't make it all day.
No, I mean, it's incredible. Like the information and the techniques and everything that I learned today, it's like invaluable because I'm like, I would have never been able to do this without this instruction.
Yeah, it's no picnic.
No.
I mean, I was having a picnic.
You had a bunch of other people digging your mine for you.
Yeah.
We got some few layers out, actually. And we took some guesswork out of wondering, is there anything here? I mean, because we got some places where we know that there's not. So.
Yeah. Well, see, basically, we have a goal, and our goal is to remove all the ledge and look at all of it, because we can't just say, we're going to look over here and then we're going to look over there. No, this is a career move. So, I mean, the next 10 years, all that's going to be gone. We're going to go in there by hand. We're going to go in 40 feet in 10 years. It sounds like a lot, but,
little bit at a time.
I can move on a good day. I can move 2 pallets by myself. Grind it up and have it throwable.
It's
But
incredible.
that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work to move 2 pallets. And you can't do it every day.
No, because you were going and going and going. I'm like, okay, calm down, because you were like at it.
Well, just to start this deal, you have to hit it sometimes 40 or 50 times.
Yeah.
It's not something you hit 3 or 4 times. Oh, it didn't go in. Well, that's the end of it. No, you just don't let it tell you that it's over. You got to take it.
Yes, yeah. Everything you did was just like, I get it. I got it. I just hope I can apply it.
You got to remember it first. There's an order to the madness.
We're going to go through and let's just double check if there's any more questions here and we'll wrap up. I mean, it's already been an hour.
Oh my God. I thought I was going to I'm ready for bed. I'm tired.
I know. You're like, this is late for you, huh? Okay.
Oh, the fan broke. So we have no fan or anything tonight. It's terrible.
Okay. Oh, goodness.
Yeah, it's terrible in there.
All these, let's see.
Yeah, and John here had another good recommendation too. If you're looking to do some trips, you can join some of the local clubs. They might have some areas that aren't available to the public.
Right.
Or just saying, you can also join Ben's club. Just to say, you don't have to be local because I'm from Ohio, Ben's from Minnesota, and I'm a part of his mineral group. So you can go to their field trips without actually living in their state. And the best thing is, you have somebody who organizes everything, tells you all you got to do is be a part of the club, pay your minimal entry fee, and all the hard work is done for you. You just get to go dig. So, mineral clubs are the best way to get access to mines and quarries that are not accessible. And the easiest way in terms of coordination is just like everybody has it done for you. You just show up.
Exactly. There's only a couple of the mines that use mineral clubs because only a couple of them actually have claims.
Okay.
Most of them don't allow claims at all, as far as the public. And even the private ones, they don't really take in. I mean, you would have to know somebody who owns one in order for your club to be into it. But there are a couple that do the claims. Diamond Acres is one of them. They have quite a few clubs in there. That's a very good spot.
We had another question. Someone, I think they're looking to maybe have like their own mine. Or is there any land for sale or any mines?
Yeah, it's all for sale.
You got the right price, John Cyril.
Don't come up here and think you're going to buy something for like $20,000 because somebody would have already bought it. I know quite a bit about the real estate up here because I research real estate. That doesn't mean I know where all the diamonds are, but I kind of know where most of them are. But nobody's going to tell you they got Herkimers on their property trying to sell it because that would just create a fiasco.
Yeah. I can see that.
And most of the people that have them on their property don't tell anybody.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a little bit to it. Even if you was looking at a piece of property, you can't just go dig a hole and see if they're there because that's illegal.
But we know what the district is, and if you go,
you know what a district is, so you just got to kind of walk it and look at it. You have to understand what you're looking for.
There you go.
Or you can call me up and I can walk out there and show you what you're not finding. I walked enough of it. I still walk land all the time for people. Yeah.
Yeah, you're a good dude, Joe. You're a good dude.
It's not that easy to find it. I had them on my property. I bought the property in 2006, and I walked up and down the creek for 10 years. Never saw a Herkimer.
I think that's a crazy story when I hear about
because you were standing in that creek. It's like, but they're not really in the creek. They don't just lay there, So then we broke rock one day.
You're like, holy shit.
There they were. Within the hour, we found crystals. After really working, we walked up and down and said, okay, this is where we're going to start. And within the hour, we hit it. Because by then, I already knew where I should be. They're either here or they're not. And boom, they were there. And that's what started the whole thing. But that's just like everybody else's piece of property. Nobody's going to tell you they're there.
Right. I'm just looking here. Yes, Tim, you can. That's my area. Fluorescent satellite Uper lights. Yes, absolutely. You can find them in Ontario. I personally think the ones on Lake Ontario and Lake Michigan, Lake Ontario and Lake Erie are the best. They have gorgeous crystals. So yes, you definitely can. You can definitely find those on Lake Ontario. Did we get through all the questions?
Yeah, I think we've gotten through everything. Just looking ahead, if people are looking for our next episode, we are live on Facebook and YouTube. If you happen to be listening to us as a traditional podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, Samsung Podcast, anywhere that you can get a podcast, we're probably out there. So search for Rockhound Talk Live. If you want to participate live, join the Facebook event or the YouTube live. Going forward, June 14th is our next episode, and we will have Zeke Holder of the Cherokee Ruby Mine.
Yes, and Zeke he's a very zesty. Like, he's got a lot of spunk, and we're gonna have fun on the show because I'm zesty and I'm fun. So I'm excited to have Zeke on the show. We're gonna have fun. So yes, Joe, thank you so much for today. It's been such an incredible day.
I appreciate you people coming out here and hanging out and having the time of your life.
Yes.
My only goal in the Herkimer world is to make sure you come back.
Yes.
And they all do.
I appreciate you. I appreciate your knowledge and experience that you're willing to share with others. So thank you so much for coming on tonight. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and peace out. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Amber.
Bye.
Thanks, Joe.